Thank you for your kind introduction. I am Vice Governor of Aichi, Akiko Yoshimoto. I'm very pleased to be invited to the Chubu ACCJ Diversity Summit. It's my great honor. Just as was introduced, since last July, I assumed the position of the Vice Governor of Aichi Prefecture. Before that, I've been engaging in the service in MHLW. I was engaged in the various work in the labor field with a special focus on the women's empowerment and active role promotion of women. From my experience, currently, the women's active role is now supported by the government or the national government. But for many years, for a long time, the women's promotion was regarded as the human rights issues for non-discrimination and also for the women's, welfare, because the women generally are regarded that they could work for only the shorter duration due to the child rearing responsibility. But now the new perspective, it is a more effective tool for the economy revitalization and part of the Japanese the growth strategy. That is the big change from the past. In Japan, the employment equal opportunity law has been established 30 years ago, and ever since then, the women's working environment was gradually improved, but still there is a gender gap. And when we learn the index-based rating, Japan has a rating is actually lowering rather than improving among countries of the world. The Japanese women's position has been gradually improving, but it's much lower than the world average. We have to step up our effort, and it would contribute to the revitalization, urgent revitalization need of this region's economy as well. Now, first, let us review the current status of women in the Japanese economy. I'd like to introduce the popular index. First one is the proportion of the people who opposite the traditional gender role. The traditional gender role is the men work outside, and women or the wife are the homemaker. And in this region, the traditional outlook or the perspective is supported rather than opposed. Number two is a women's labor force participation rate. It is Aichi's rate of average is a little above the national average, but we have specific characteristics of the distribution of the age. I will touch upon it later. Number three indicator is a women's share of employed workers. Aichi's rate is lower than the national average. Also, number four, women's share of the management is Aichi's percentage is lower than the national average. Also, the number five, average employee tenure of the female workers is shorter than the national average. Number six, the gender wage gap is lower than the national the average. Our region's gap percentage is 68.6%. Now, next page is this is the familiar M-shaped curve of the women's the work. The blue dotted line is the Japanese national average, and the red line is the Aichi Prefecture's curve. And if you look at the detail, you could see that from their 30s to 40s, this is the high time for women's dedicated to the child rearing. Generally speaking, in this age bracket, many of the women, they stop working, in her or in their career. That is the characteristics. Also, I mentioned the wage gap between the men and women. In Aichi Prefecture, we are the second lowest among all prefectures in Japan. against the the male the wage. The absolute level of the wage is not low here in Aichi. However, the men's the wage is also higher among the the average of the Japan, and that's why percentage-wise the Aichi women's wage is rated second lowest. In Japan, the wage is determined not by the occupation or job family, but rather by the duration and the position. Service duration and the position. The number of the service years and the position are the major determinants of the wages. Therefore, so one component is to enable women to work for longer years or the longer duration, and the other important component is to promote women's position in their workplaces. So these positive action would be very important to close in on this gap. These are the introduction of the current status of women in Aichi. And against such background, in order to promote women's active role in society and in the economy, I would like to raise 4 proposals, 4 points. First one is if you consider women's role in a company, the top management commitment is very important. As I mentioned at the onset, for women to take an active role is now regarded as more beneficial for the corporate strategy, and the top management should make sure that this message will get across throughout the company and the community. Otherwise, the traditional gender role will not be transformed. So top-down, very strong message of women's promotion would be very important. And also, the middle management are mostly occupied by the by male, and those middle management commitment and determination to train and use a women workforce is also very important. And naturally, when the top management ironed out the very strong message that will influence middle management mindset. So again, the top management commitment is very important. So how we could change the influence top management awareness and mindset. And currently, Aichi Prefecture, through the economic, the bodies and organization, we established the Aichi Women's Promotion, Women's Action Promotion Conference. The green leaflet, sorry, that is all in Japanese, but this is, the conference is organized by the economic organization and the top management of the companies and the universities. So this is the place of the policy discussion of industry, government, and academia. And on the second page, you see the declaration on women's active role promotion, and in the preamble, the top the management mindset change, and also the need for changing women's awareness is described, and also to promote women to the managerial positions and to support the environment where the child rearing and work can both enabled. So based on this declaration, now we encourage the individual company to make their own declaration. The content is up to each individual company. That could be the message from the top management, or the more numerical target, like how many percentage of the women's position in managerial position is targeted by when. So again, the content is up to individual company, and the national government of Japan is trying to enact the new law to promote the women's active role. in a society and economy, and there would be several obligations to be imposed on the companies. In Aichi Prefecture, we try to be more inclusive, not only large companies, but we would like to spread this culture to SMEs as well. Therefore, we encourage the declaration from the companies, including all SMEs in this world. So I'd like to reinstate this, the intention of the Aichi government here. And the next is the work-life balance for men and women. When we hear the work-life balance, it is not only regarded in the past that it is only for women who is working while rearing the child at home. But if you just focus on the women's, the work-life balance, there's no real transformation. I think the largest cause of the current gender gap is the long work hours on men in Japan. The corporate culture is gradually changing, but in a traditional the business culture in Japan, when you spend, especially among the men, if you spend more hours at workplaces, you will be regarded as more trustworthy, or the productive, or the dependable. But that is counter efficiency activities. We have to shorten the work hours while maintaining the output. Therefore, we need to create a more efficient culture. So focusing, not only women, but rather to transform men's or the majority's work style in Japanese corporate culture is most important. And also, the prefecture is, they're carrying out various campaigns to change the work style, like no overtime day. This is supported by various companies, and each company make the certain day of the week as a no overtime day. And prefecture set up the one day, the third Wednesday of November, is the prefecture-wide no overtime day. So try to spread this message to all the companies. Last year, more than 6,000 companies, altogether 240,000 workers joined this no overtime day. So it is rather widespread the campaign, and we are going to do the same this year, and we hope that the participants will even they increase further. And the next is ikumen. Are you familiar with this word? This means the child rearing dad, or the child rearing men. Some people are still against that, but when you think of the transformation of the work balance, if you have your child given a birth, it is a great opportunity for a father as well to experience child rearing, and it is a key timing to change the work-life balance in the family and broadly in the workplaces. So we try to encourage every new father to take a child care leave. The third is the empowerment of women it is often said that the women, when they are to be assigned to the managerial position, they'd rather become hesitant because there's no precedent. However, I greatly try to encourage women workforce to step out of the traditional box and to become more ambitious. And the prefecture, the government provide the seminar for the women to be promoted to the managerial position, and there's no role model in the same company often, and therefore we try to facilitate the cross-industry and cross-business network so that the women can learn from other women. When we interview the top management, they often say that women are lacks the aspiration or the ambition and motivation. However, on the other hand, when you have the examination of the or job interview when the new graduate try to find a job, usually the co-ed, the women get higher score. So while they were why were they demotivated while they are working? One is the tremendous or the very tough responsibility to fill both at workplaces and at home, especially when they enter the child rearing period. But the other factor is that the companies lacks the seriousness of the commitment in educating and developing women's the capability at workplaces. Maybe men are too soft on women. Is it true? To train the women workforce just as they do to the men workforce is still lacking. They try to discriminate women in training in workplaces, and also when the child is still young, they have to set the special work hours to allow the mother worker to leave workplaces earlier than others. For short duration of time, that might be felt or that might be appreciated, but you have to look these special treatment for the longer term through the whole career life. We try to enable the environment where the men and women are treated equally under whatever conditions in the workplaces, including shorter working hours. Having said that, still the mothers tend to take the longer child care, the leave or the child rearing leave rather than a father. But in order to maintain the motivation of the mother worker throughout this the short but precious tough but precious duration of time, the early on education and training at workplace before the childbirth is very important to let the women worker at an early stage to experience various types of jobs and preferably to let them experience the successful achievement in a professional business, so that they really could feel that their service are appreciated, needed, and expected, and that will probably encourage them to go through that period. Looking back my own career, I don't think that I'm especially talented, but the MLHW where I was working in most of my career, there is an environmental culture to develop women workers and men workers on an equal basis. And some of us have kids, some of us do not. But there are various choices of the role models. Depending on who you are, you can still build on your career. So I think that kind of little diversity is also very important. So for individual women worker to build her career in a given the workplaces, that will be an important element to encourage more the women's active role. I think those women who are here today are all highly motivated the persons, and I'd like to encourage all of you that supportive environment is gradually developed and much better than before. Therefore, please they go on making your advance, sustaining your high motivation. The fourth factor is the child care and support for the child care. In Japan, hiring babysitters is very difficult, and also the longer work hours not shortened so overnight. So daycare center, the social safety net for the child rearing by the administration as an part of the administrative service is very important. There are still many children on the waiting list for the daycare centers. After they enter the elementary school, after school there is an after school child club they prepared. However, this also has a long waiting list and not available for all the kids who who do not have their mothers or the caretakers at home. We are rapidly expanding the number of the child care centers and after school kids club. But as we move on, there are still new needs they're coming up. Therefore, the prefectural government double up the budget and said that child care services top priority, try to accelerate the speed. Last but not least, we are proud of the very strong industrial capability of this region. That the manufacturing factor is the strongest among all Japanese prefectures, maintaining the current competitive edge and try to develop further. We need to utilize women's potential, which is still latent in this region. Today's theme is diversity, and especially women's empowerment, I think, is the first step for the promotion of diversity. On the government and administration side, we will do what we can to our best, and we'd like to encourage the industrial sector, private sector, and the employers of the companies and our male counterpart. I'd like to encourage all of them to give your best effort so that we can together work for the further diversity and enrichment of the society, human resources, and the industry in this region. Thank you.